So, a players only meeting never means vibes are good, right? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone, and welcome into episode 100 of Wizards' latest. Let's talk about that players only meeting. Let's talk about what it means for Brian Keefe's future as head coach. I'll jump into a rumor I've seen swirling over the past week or so. And lastly, we'll chat about the comment section from the previous video. Make sure you're consistently down there dropping your thoughts, a chance for your voice to be heard here on the show. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons as well. And again, let's chat about the players only meeting that we heard came out after the Nets loss. What happened there? Bilal Coulibaly says, we needed that talk, I think. The guys just stepped up, the vets, the guys that have been used to winning. That's what we're trying to do here in the next year. So they had to talk to us, and they did a great job about this, and everybody was listening. So when you hear the vets, you automatically think McCollum and Middleton. Could probably throw Gill and Kispert, those names in there as well. Feels like, though, the Brooklyn Nets loss, the tipping point for not just us in the fan base, but for some of the players on the roster as well. We talk about all the time. Again, I say pretty much every episode. We understand what the situation is here this year, but we can deal with bad losses to Houston. Bad losses, 20-point losses to another one-win team in the NBA in Brooklyn. That is a tough pill to swallow. And I think you're now, seeing the results of that, of course, in that locker room. And obviously, a lot of people saying this is an indictment on Brian Keefe, especially with that meeting, of course, getting the players only tag. And look, I'm not going to sit here and sing the praises of Coach Keefe so far this year. Again, we understand what the situation is. And even with an intentionally flawed roster, I do think there's been points of frustration for me personally. I'll give you one thing. In the last few games, I feel like the defensive effort has slipped just a little. Again, just maybe just in terms of running guys off the 3-point line, that type of thing. And I would like to just see more of an identity developed at one end of the court. Okay, even if the defense is bad, are we a pretty good offensive team that can really move the basketball and, play high scoring games and kind of lose shootouts? Well, no, not really. They're poorly rated on offense. And then when you go back to the defensive end of the court, it's again, last few games, the one thing I look to, just closing out guys, those contests, getting to the 3-point line, making them put the ball on the deck, and then getting your defense spinning and have to play some help side. I feel like that's really fallen off. We're seeing a lot of just kind of half hands up, half contest on the perimeter. And then you see crazy 3-point shooting numbers back the other way against you. So again, I'm not exactly going to sing Brian Keefe's praises. Can I get that out here on the page? But I will say, I would be shocked if he's going anywhere this season. Remember, when he was promoted from within, he's kind of Will Dawkins' guy. They go back a ways. That's the connection there. I don't really think, again, unless it, and my point there is that unless it's an internal promotion from somebody already on the staff, who are you going to go get that's going to take essentially not even a full year interim rental job with a team that's trying to hold on to their draft pick next year by not winning a ton of games. So you could want Keith gone, but I'm not really sure there's a ton of names. It's not a matter of who you would even want to come in. It's more of a matter of, at least during the year, this season, who would actually accept the position. Now, I will say, if things keep going the way they are, and if you get to 1-20, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it did, I mean, it's hard to keep your head coach at that point, right? And I will also say, it's getting to the point where you're shocked if Brian Keefe is the coach of the future after this year. I think the only way he is, if it would be if him and Dawkins were just so connected coming into this season, had such a good understanding of what this year was going to look like, that Dawkins was like, okay, this is a pass. We knew what the last 2 years were going to be. Here's an actual opportunity to really develop and compete. But again, it's getting to the point where I'd be shocked if he's back next year, but I might be equally as surprised if he's let go of during the regular season. So let's move on to a little bit of trade talk I've seen Wizards off day, at least off the court. And let's chat about an idea I've seen swirling over the last week or so. It started, I believe, with the Bleacher Report article, and it centers around LaMelo Ball. And it says the Wizards would send CJ McCollum, Bub Carrington, Cam Whitmore, a 29 first rounder, a 2030 first rounder, and a couple more second round picks to the Hornets for LaMelo Ball. And frankly, while I do think the team, maybe next offseason, maybe even at the deadline, more likely next offseason, the deadline, again, it would have to include a McCollum or Middleton and really get a nice return back. Again, still hoping, especially if McCollum's scoring keeps kind of ticking up, that you can get some value back for him. But in this situation, I'd probably have to caution Washington to stay away from LaMelo Ball. And while I know he's one of the more exciting players in the league when he's on the court, I'm gonna have to stay away from Mr. Cheeto tattoo on his foot. Frankly, because I just don't think he's a winning basketball player. He's a guy that shoots a little bit more than 40% from the floor. He's never played more than 75 games in his career. Missed more time here already this season. That 75 game mark by far a career high. And I know you might be saying, well, Ben, your team has one win. You can't really be, greedy and picky over what talent you're able to bring back with a trade, especially again if McCollum is moved and you're able to get any value back for him. But I'm not sure that bringing in LaMelo Ball and just the way he plays is exactly the right way to continue this rebuild. Remember, LaMelo also making 40 plus $1 million over the next 3 years. And frankly, I think that he's a guy that if he's your best player, the play-in is kind of where you're destined to end up, especially if he is healthy for a whole year. I know that he would probably step in and at least on this current roster, easily be the most talented player that they have. I'm just not sure that's the correct way to go about the rebuild. And again, back to my point of Ben, hey, you can't be picky. Look at your roster and your team right now. Well, yeah, I can be. The goal isn't to get back to the play-in. I watched this team for a couple of decades kind of hang out in basketball purgatory, and frankly, everybody complained about it. So we're not trying to get back to just being, the 10th best, 8th best, compete for the 10th to 6th spots in the East, frankly. I want to get back, and maybe not even being back, but for the first time in maybe my life, to be a consistent top tier contender in the Eastern Conference. I think that should be the goal. I don't think, again, even if you are a struggling organization, the goal shouldn't be to get halfway up the standings. It should be to get to the top, and I don't think a LaMelo Ball trade would necessarily help that in terms of the Wizards' future. Let's jump into the comment section, though, from the previous video. I appreciate you guys consistently being down in that comment section. I wanted to make sure I gave a thank you to Tony M67. Pays an awesome compliment as a content creator. This is about as good of a thing as you can hear. He says, look forward to seeing your videos. And right there, big thanks. He also says, I also refuse to believe the Wizards are this bad. I also don't want to believe they're losing on purpose. Maybe they just happen to have one of their worst games playing against another terrible team. And I do think you hit on something there. I wonder if, and again, the players aren't going out there trying to lose, but there could be parameters put in place with the front office and just the roster that's been built that kind of ensures losses. But I will say, you wonder if maybe coming off, that still on the losing streak, I guess, but going into that Nets game, the Wizards are kind of looking, oh, that's another bad team too. And you kind of start doing that kind of false thing in your head where you're building yourself up to be better than you are. And you also only have one win, and it results in just a flat performance. Dispo as well, thank you for the comment. He says, love your videos, man. I'm not too worried about Bilal last night. He showed once again the impact he has. I feel like, was there another Dispo comment? His impact is too strong overall. I believe that's also talking about Bilal Koulibaly. Appreciate you down being consistently down in that comment section. For Bilal, just I think we need to see a little bit more offensive aggression from him, just a little bit more attacking the basket. And again, it seems like the injuries keep hampering him because that felt like it was coming along during Eurobasket and during some of those contests. France, their international team, you could tell right away, really wanted Bilal to be a featured guy. And then the injuries and keeping him off the court and now trying to find his rhythm again, you wonder if maybe now he's got to get back into that aggressive mindset. Kenneth Rabin says Keith really not up to this job. Anthony Edridge as well says it feels to me that the team has quit on Brian Keith. He has to go. And if that part, that latter comment is the case, that is something that can't happen. And he does have to find a way to continue to motivate these young players to get after it every single night that they're out there. Because again, giving half effort, giving 50% effort, and then losing by 25, points a night isn't the key to development. And while I think we have seen more progress from some of the young guys than people want to admit here this year, again, 20-point losses to the Nets aren't growth. That's not what you want to see moving forward. Mr. Jeremy David says, Keyshawn and Sar have to get their fouls under control. He also says Blockbuster brings back a lot of memories. That was in reference to my Blockbuster video game rental conversation when I was a kid yesterday. But again, Keyshawn and Sar, two of those players that I think have made huge strides here this year, already shown that off, but they have to rein in their fouling a little bit. And we talked about yesterday with Keyshawn has to find a way to balance defensive aggression and what he can bring on that end of the court to staying out of foul trouble and keeping yourself in the game. Cass Soul says coaching is a huge issue. We need a change as well. Nobody seems to be interested in having fun at all, and it seems to be a horrible job that they are forced to play. 28060 says that the Wizards need a center. I would maybe push back on that yet. I haven't given up quite yet on Alex Sarr being a true five-man, and I think he keeps showing this year the progress that he has made. And if that progress continues kind of on this trajectory from year 1 to year 2, then to year 2 to year 3, I'm really not worried about Sarr as a center in the league. Let's jump into Multiverse Joe's comment, consistently down there as well. Much appreciated, man. And he actually gives a good reminder. Make sure you're checking out that Kansas Duke game here on a night off from Wizards basketball. They play here this evening. Peterson, Boozer in those games. Couple Boozers, of course. And that should be really a really fun matchup. And obviously draft implications next year. My comment is he's back to the top of his comment. He said, I viewed the Bulls game against the Nuggets as Chicago improved greatly. Their starters were down 20 when the second unit took over. The Bulls have a settled lineup and second unit shows. It's time for the coaches to pick a starting five, not including the two old guys, and establish a second unit. Bilal is gifted, but too timid. The Bulls traded well. Also, like he's talking about Mikal Brown, I believe. He likes him. And then Peterson, of course. If it's not Brown, if you could get Peterson, kind of that shiny toy in terms of a guard prospect in next year's draft class. The one thing I'll say about the old guys in the starting lineup, I've been asking for it too, especially Middleton. I would really love to see him come off the bench. I just don't think it's going to happen, especially not with McCollum. I think until the trade deadline at the very least, and maybe the only way, if he's still on the roster after the trade deadline, I could see him then getting sent down to the bench because the team's like, all right, well, we didn't, this didn't fulfill its purpose. But really, until then, I think we're going to have to deal with at least one of the two old dudes still in that starting five. Let's see. I believe Live Ride had a comment. Again, my guy consistently down in that comment section. He said I had a couple of those old gold arena swingman jerseys in 2XL. playing CJ 32 minutes, Middleton 27, and Bub 20 ensures a loss. Those could have been Will Riley, Champagny, Jameer Watkins minutes, playing with their defense. And let's see, he also says shooting percentage of key players are up, even though assisted buckets are down. Let's go 1-81 and get Darren Peterson, DeBonsa, or Boozer. For that to happen, every loss is a win. And again, that's kind of the dilemma we have here this season. We want the losing streak to end, and I would like to just get a little bit more positive results or just positive performances out there on the court. But guys, remember, every time you do see that, L in the losing column, it does kind of get you closer to maybe getting one of those really highly touted prospects in next year's draft class. And for those of you who said there's no value there's no reason to tank, you don't know if those guys could pan out anyway. No, you don't, but you give me one of those players, I think you're in a much better spot moving forward in terms of your future. We'll keep you posted on everything Wizards related right here on the page. Make sure you've hit those like and subscribe buttons. If you've gotten this far and listened to me for this long and haven't done so yet, I appreciate all the support here on the page. Make sure you've dropped your comments as well. And thanks for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.